When you have sex with a man, you create a soul tie. When you have a baby with a man, that creates a whole other type of bond and tie that God has to deliver you from. You can't just move on and be delivered. You got to get in the face of God for him to pluck some things out and uproot some things, the pain that the situation caused, the foundation of it, right? All the things that happened before that led up to you being hurt to that degree. God has to do a work in you.
I wake up every day as flesh and bones, humbled alone, weak on my own. Lord, you love me bare and natural. You meet me where I am.
I want to share with you all how I was able to heal from being a teen mother and high school dropout and all of those things, right? And how God fully restored my life way more than I thought that he ever would, and how he is continuing to shower me with every good thing. God is so faithful. And one of the things that people rarely discuss is the pain and the suffering that comes from having a child so young and having to deal with the fallout emotionally. You know, when you're young, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, even 18, right? You're not prepared to handle all of the emotional baggage that comes along with having sex, okay, getting pregnant and having a baby, right? All of the shame surrounding it, all of the intense emotion and love that you feel for your child, all of the rejection that you receive from the world, all of the whispers, right? All of the negative talk about your life and how ruined it is, right? We never really discuss that, okay? Because we just kind of get through it, go on, and let life happen, right? But many women suffer terribly during those times emotionally, and it causes trauma. It causes serious emotional trauma that we don't really process because we have to be a mother. We have to be, right, a student. Perhaps you're still in school. We have to be still a good child, okay, to our parents because maybe you're still a child, right? You have all of these roles that you're playing and you really don't know how you fit in any of those roles. And so you're already going through the awkwardness of growing in your life and trying to figure out who you are. And then you add this big thing, right? This life change that has happened in your life, being pregnant, and you have to deal with that. And you have to deal with the connection that is formed with the man that you are pregnant by. Okay. It's a lot to unpack. It really, truly is. And I won't be able to do it all in this video. However, I'm going to try to hit some nails on the head. Okay. When you are a young woman, right? When you're young and you're impressionable, and especially, I have to throw this in there because this is a big deal, right? This doesn't mean that it's everybody, but I have to call this out, especially when the hand of God is literally on you, right? And you have been called for a greater purpose. When you've been called to minister, when you've been called to be a force in the kingdom of God, this impacts you on a whole other level, right? Because you have an inner knowing of what it is that you're supposed to do. You have an inner knowing of your worth, right? But somehow your circumstances don't quite match what you know, okay? So that's another intense pain that you have to heal from. There's just a lot, okay? And so whenever you're young, and you're called, you're called to greatness, you're called to ministry, you're called to kingdom, you're just called, period, right? God's hand is on you, right? You're his. The enemy uses these things to try to come in and destroy your foundation and destroy your knowing. He uses it because he knows that when you are called of God, you are likely very sensitive to the Spirit of God. So you're very intuitive, discerning, right? You pick up on things, right? You know things, right? You're beyond your years, as people say. And this is how I was, right? But it didn't keep me from making bad decisions, because again, there's still a part of you that's young that is still growing, right? And you're very naive in a lot of ways, but you're very trusting, and you believe what people say, right? You believe what they say, and when it doesn't pan out to be that way, you are crushed. And that crushing, when it happens at such a young age, is very, very traumatizing, and it can sometimes take decades to heal from. Okay, when I was younger and got pregnant the first time at 13, second time at 15. Okay, the first time I had an abortion, second time I hid my pregnancy because I didn't want to have an abortion, right? And I was so, what I thought was, in love, okay, with the father of my child. I thought that my life was going to be with this man. I just knew it. I was like, forget the world, it's me and him, okay? And I had such a strong belief in that, that when it didn't pan out the way I thought, it left me devastated. It left me devastated. It left me heartbroken. It left me feeling used. It left me feeling abused. It left me feeling rejected. And let me say this, he was young also. So it's really just two young people, right? He was 17, I was 15. It's two young people engaging in things that they don't understand is going to really truly alter their life. And we didn't understand that, hey, we're still growing and we're not going to be together forever, right? Some people, they it can happen like that. But this wasn't my situation, right? But because I was such a very sensitive person spiritually, and I felt everything intensely. Like, I love hard, right? I hurt hard. I'm happy hard, right? I'm joyful hard. Like, every emotion is, I feel all of the follicles and tentacles that encapsulate that emotion. I feel everything, right? All of it. And so everything either stings really hard or feels really good, right? So this is kind of how I've always been. So as a young girl getting pregnant, and thinking what he told me, what this man told me, I should say boy because he wasn't a man, what he told me when he said, I love you, I want you to have my baby, da da da. All these things in my mind went into my spirit and was like, okay, this is what we're doing, right? This is the life that we're having. So I'm saying that to say, no fault of his, because again, we're both young, right? But what I'm saying is that the scars that are left when the disappointment sets in and the realization sets in that this is not going to be the case. A lot of times for women, we internalize these things and it ends up impacting all of our decisions moving forward. And look, let's not even mention the fact that if your father is not in your life, right? If you are having some type of trauma already going on in your life before that, right? This just adds to it, but in a much more significant and painful way, because now you're bringing a life into the world and you have to stay facing the person that is pretty much a part of this pain that you're feeling, right? And God forbid that you got some baby mama, baby daddy drama going on, okay? And you got another person in the picture, and there's things happening, and there's all kinds of um intense pain that comes with this, okay? Listen, this is why I wrote my book, Mother's Milk, because a lot of times people don't understand how deep hurt runs for women, because we're so used to pushing everything down and just going through life and being strong, and that's what it is, right? And this is a great disservice that we do to ourselves, because what we do is we act like I'm not hurt no more. But really, the truth is that pain went so deep that God has to truly heal. He has to truly heal and deliver you from the pain of rejection, Listen, we talk about everything is spiritual and then natural, right? Everything that's real is spiritual, right? Natural things are a result of the spiritual, okay? The spiritual realm is the real realm. That's real life for real, okay? When you have a baby with a man, all right, you're already connecting and creating a soul tie when you have sex with a man, right? Now you lay down and you have a baby with a man, and if you have any intense feelings towards this man, everything about that feels like this is supposed to be, right? So now you have pretty much latched on to this idea that this is meant to be, right? You are really there. Your emotions are grounded in the fact that this is the father of my child. This is one day going to be my husband, and we're going to be together forever. And you have this idea, right? When it doesn't happen, it's devastating. So you have this relationship, okay? And this soul tie has already taken place. And now you have a long lasting tie with the child, right? You have this connection between the two of you. So you're constantly having to deal with this man. If you're a man, you're constantly having to deal with the woman that maybe broke your heart or whatever. And you have this shared human, right? You have a shared human being now that you have to be there for. Okay. So for women, right, for us, a lot of times, and I'm not saying that men don't experience this as well, but more often than not, women, we experience the gravity of the pain and the rejection that we feel when we are not in this relationship with the man that we created life with. Okay. And what happens is you end up feeling like a failure as a mother, because your natural instinct as a mother is to have your family together, right? It's to have mother and a father. So you bring the child into the world already feeling guilty and feeling like somehow you have deprived them of something that they were supposed to have. Now you automatically feel guilty because your child is not going to be in a two-parent home, right? This is real talk, y'all. So I want us to like get real in this conversation here, okay? Because a lot of people do a lot of talking about, oh, baby mama's this and baby daddy's that. And people completely skirt over all of the emotional trauma and ramifications that have come as a result of this connecting, right? Of these two people getting together. There's so much more to it, especially when you're young. Now, when you're older, you can make better decisions. And this is the reason why it is not a good idea to have a baby as a teenager. However, if you get pregnant, you keep that baby, okay? But you're not emotionally prepared to handle the fallout from the disappointment that will take place. One, understanding that you're not going to be with the person. Two, understanding that you now have a single parent household, and the guilt that comes over you as a parent is real. It's a real guilt. So you end up spoiling your children, giving them everything they want because you're trying to feel this void that you know is there, because you know it's there, especially if you're a person that grew up without your father in the home or with one or more parents missing from the home. You know there is a void, and you desperately don't want your child to endure that. Okay. So there's that, right? But I wanted to give you guys all of this sort of, I don't know, a little bit of backstory and some understanding into this situation so that you can understand exactly how God healed me and what God revealed to me in all of this. Okay. This thing hurt me so bad. It hurt me so bad that for years, okay, for years, I couldn't even go in the vicinity of where I grew up, because I grew up on the same block as my daughter's father, right? We grew up going to the same schools, knowing the same people, right? I've been knowing this man since I was 7 years old, okay? So the pain was intense for me because it was a humiliation on so many levels. It wasn't just, oh, we're not together. He's being a stupid boy teenager, which is what they do, right? That's what they do. You can't fault them, okay? But he's playing games, right? He's got this one over here, he's got that one over there. He's broke my heart and he doesn't even think that it's a big deal, right? Not to mention you have boys in the neighborhood that go, "Oh yeah, she did this, she did that." You got people lying on you now because now it just like, "Oh, she if she was with him, then I'm gonna say she was with me, and if she got pregnant, then she must be fast," right? You have all these stigmas put on you that are so untrue, and then you have your family that's looking at you like, shame, 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 right? How dare you do this as a teenager? So there is so much that you're unable to process. And at the same time, you're being traumatized, right? And nobody is seeing all of these layers of trauma that's taking place in your life at this young age, okay? I told y'all we was going to get deep, all right? Remember, if you guys seen my testimony, I already dealt with molestation from a young age. I had already dealt with rejection. I had already dealt with a lot of inappropriate mishandlings of me from the time I was a little girl, right? So this was just to me a continuation of that, except it was two people consenting, right? I wasn't being violated in the sense that somebody's taking advantage of me, right? Although I shouldn't have been doing what I was doing at that age, I was, right? But it wasn't anything where I was forced to do it. Okay. So all of this is piled up on me now, right? As a young girl. And what happened is I had so much anxiety surrounding everything that was happening in my life. I'm talking about all of it, like whatever could have been possibly going on in my household at the time. If it was stress there with me and my family, if it was stress at school, being bullied, if I was over here at church getting molested, it was so many things happening in my life. And this person I thought was going to be with me and love me, right? And I pretty much said I'm going to be with him. I love him. And when that didn't happen, it crushed my spirit at 15 years old. At 15 years old, it crushed my spirit so bad and it caused me to have debilitating anxiety to the point that when I moved from our neighborhood, we literally grew up a few doors from each other, right? When I moved from that neighborhood, every time, y'all, this is so crazy. This is how bad trauma can impact you. Every single time I would drive in the vicinity of where I grew up, in the vicinity of him, because he was still in that area, right? Every time I would drive in the vicinity of him, I would get this debilitating, like gut wrenching, bend over sick, like bad anxiety. And y'all, I literally avoided that part of town forever. I would drive 5 miles out of the way to avoid going in my old neighborhood near. Not even, listen, because there's a lot of blocks and streets and all the things around it, right? I didn't want to be within a 5 mile radius of my neighborhood where I grew up, y'all. The pain that I felt and the humiliation and the embarrassment and everything that I felt that I had experienced in that neighborhood, and with the nail in the coffin being what I went through my daughter's father, then that to me was, it felt like it was killing me every time I went in that area. I'm telling you, when I think back on it, I'm just like, I can't even believe, I never thought I would get past that, right? So I move on, years progress, right? Everything is, as well as it can be. You're still growing. We're still growing. I'm still growing, right? There are issues there, not issues there. We're still back and forth together, not together, really not together, but kind of like, getting together, but not staying together. And in my mind, that created this, well, he loves me. We're going to be together because, this is what's going on. And we have a child together. And obviously this is something that we're doing, right? Couldn't have been further from the truth. I was fooling myself into thinking that this was going to actually be something, because I felt like my family literally had been stolen from me. Like somebody just blew up my whole life, and my daughter can't have her father at home, and there's a whole other host of issues that come from that, even with children. And so there's just, y'all, like I said, it's so much that I can't get into in this video. Maybe I'll do a part two. But what I wanted to really hammer home in this message was that God completely restored me and healed me of that pain. So that now, it was years later, because I dealt with this trauma for years and I just suppressed it. I just, you know how we sweep stuff under the rug, right? To me, as long as I wasn't in that neighborhood, as long as I didn't have to go around it, as long as I wasn't even in that state no more, I'm like, out of sight, out of mind. I don't have to relive all the things that happened to me on my block. All the things that pretty much made me hate my childhood happened to me when I lived on that block, right? And this person was a constant reminder of that. And I had to deal with him for the rest of my life. That's how I was looking at it back then. Today, everything is great, okay? But back then, I was like, I have to deal with him for the rest of my life. Y'all, that pain went so deep, I didn't think it was possible. I did not think that it was possible for God to get me to a place where I was healed, where I was actually whole, where that didn't bother me. Y'all, it wasn't until, and this is just real talk, okay? It wasn't until probably, I don't know, close to 20 years later that I actually, now I was over it before. I was over him way before I got over him. When I fell in love with somebody else, it completely showed me love in a different way. So it wasn't not getting over him, but being healed from the feeling of the trauma, right? You can still have trauma about a situation, not love a person and be way past that, but you still feel the sting of what happened when you were in that thing, right? That's what I'm talking about. So the trauma, I want to say close to 20 years later, maybe 15, maybe about 15 years later, close to 20, between 15 and 20 years later, when I actually started to develop real intimate relationship with God, meaning that I was allowing God to lead me. When he said consecrate, that's what I would do. When he said fast, that's what I would do. When he would say get in my presence, that's what I would do, so on and so forth. And I just developed a habit of doing that, right? And obeying. And I promise y'all, I promise you, God began to heal me slowly but surely. He began to heal my wounds. And y'all, they were deep. Oh, they were so deep. It wasn't an overnight process. It wasn't like, oh, today I fast and tomorrow I'm healed, or I get in God's presence for, however many 30 days and then I'm healed. Y'all, it was a process, because God he had to heal all the layers. He couldn't just heal, oh, this broken relationship with this man that you thought you were going to have, and you feel like your life was devastated and your child is going to suffer now because she ain't got her father in the house. I had all these terrible thoughts, right? God had to heal all the layers, starting from the very first time that I was violated, okay, as a young girl. So he had to heal the layers before that, right? God had to heal this layer, then that layer, then that layer, then that layer. And then and only then was he able to grab me and say, okay, now let me show you this thing here. And that is when God started to break down to me why I was so traumatized by that, why it impacted me so deeply, and why it took me so long to get to this point. Okay, y'all, when I tell you that when God healed me from that, and listen, when I say he healed me, I mean he healed me. There would be little things here and there that would be like little triggers, and I would be like, oh, like I can't, oh, and I would be upset about the situation, and I would just be like, nope. But when God healed me and I stopped being angry about I didn't have triggers no more. When God healed me, the triggers went away. It was just like, okay, whatever, When he healed me to that degree, y'all, that's when I actually started to see my life actually blossom. Not because that wasn't holding me back per se, but it was more so I was holding myself back because I had this thing inside of me that I just wouldn't let go. I just couldn't give it to God because it hurt so bad. It just seemed impossible that He could heal it. It seemed impossible that He could get me to a place of healing. Listen, when you have sex with a man, you create a soul tie. When you have a baby with a man, that creates a whole other type of bond and tie that God has to deliver you from. You can't just move on and be delivered. You got to get in the face of God for Him to pluck some things out and uproot some things, the pain that the situation caused, the foundation of it, right? All the things that happened before that that led up to you being hurt to that degree. God has to do a work in you. And when I tell you He did, y'all, He did. And I remember going back to Detroit, and the first time I was able to go in that neighborhood after 15 plus years, right? My daughter's a teenager now. She in high school, y'all. Well, not now. She, at that time, right now she's 35. But at that time, she was in high school. And that was the first time that I was able to go in that neighborhood. Well, I hadn't been in the neighborhood in a long time. So that was the first time in a long time that I had been in the neighborhood, and I didn't feel anything. Now, I will say this. I did feel something. I did feel like almost like you know how you like a nostalgic, not in a good way though. It wasn't like, oh, I remember this. It was like, wow, I'm back here again. I felt that, like, wow, I'm back here again, right? But it wasn't this feeling of like, oh my God, I can't. It wasn't that, right? It was it was a feeling like I have conquered this demon, right? Meaning the situation, the demon being the situation, not the person, right? I have conquered this demon of rejection because that's what it stemmed from, y'all. It stemmed from rejection. And that's what the Lord had to show me. Whenever you're violated as a young girl, right? You go through molestation, whatever the case, whenever you're violated, and even as a young man, whenever you go through that type of violation, it brings about rejection because it's someone rejecting your purity, rejecting your youth, and saying, I'm taking it, rejecting the innocence in you, right? And it feels like you've been thrown to the wolves, okay? So God had to heal that. And then not having my biological father in my life, right? He would pop in and out, okay? He was on drugs, he was on alcohol, all these things, right? And I rarely seen him. That was a form of rejection, okay? And then not having what I felt at the time, that I was going through a lot of things that my family didn't know about. And it was because I didn't tell them. But for me as a young person, them not seeing it felt to me like rejection. It was more pain. Even though when I got older, I understood why they didn't see it, right? But there's all these layers of all these things and all this anger. I had so much anger. I had so much anger, y'all, when I was growing up. The anger stemmed from all of this pain that had been inflicted upon me. And I knew how tender my heart was. I knew how much I loved God. And I knew that I knew I was special. Not special as in better than anybody else. I knew I was special as in special to God. And so I had a lot of anger because all of this pain had been inflicted on me, and I knew that it was not going to be an easy process to heal from. And it angered me. It angered me because it felt like I was carrying all this stuff that really I could have just avoided, right? Y'all, when I tell you, God healed me from all of that. And when He healed me from that, He showed me so much revelation in all of the layers. This is the reason why I work with women today. This is the reason why I'm able to counsel and give advice and help people with their lives and help people heal the way that I can, because God, He showed me all the layers. He showed me so many things, y'all. And I just wanted to encourage those of you who have been through extreme pain with a man and you've given birth to this man's children, and the guilt and the shame that you feel for not being in the relationship, even if you had to leave, even if it was necessary for you to not be in the situation, however it came about that you're not together, right? God sees that pain. He understands. He gets it. He knows. Okay. And only He can heal you from all of that. Only He can heal you, right? He can restore you back to where you were. It will be as if you were never violated, as if your innocence was never stolen, as if you were never rejected, as if you were never done wrong, right? And when God blesses you and restores you, many times the same situations that you wished that you were in, you thank God that you did not stay in. Because see, we can't see down the corner and around the street. We can't see 10, 20, 30 years ahead, but God can. And when you go through that rejection, it feels like you're losing. You're like, I lost. Why did I lose? Why did they not choose me? What was wrong with me? You start feeling bad about yourself. And it's not until you grow in God that you actually see who you are and that God can reveal to you your true self, and He can give you absolute understanding about everything that you have gone through, right? There's way more layers than I've been able to get into in this message, but I'm not going to keep on holding y'all. I just want to let you know that the presence of God is what healed. The presence of God is what restored. Getting closer to Him in relationship is what was able to break all of that trauma, pain, and all of that rejection and feeling bad about myself and feeling guilty and shame. It broke all of that. That's why I'm able to shame the shame today. I don't carry shame about the things that I've gone through. I don't carry shame about having to drop out of school. Oh, and went to college after that. Okay. And was on the dean's list. Listen, everything that you lost, everything that you felt like was stolen from you, right? God will restore. Y'all, I didn't even go to prom. Okay. I didn't even go to my prom. And I remember feeling so bad. Like I didn't get to experience anything that people my age got to experience because I was a mom. But what I can tell you is this: God has given me 50 proms. Okay. God has given me 50 graduations. He has given me 50 proms. He has made up for everything that I lost in my childhood, right? God has given me back again and again through my career, through my accomplishments, right? Through Him blessing my life, through my child, my beautiful daughter, who I'm so proud of. She is an amazing woman. And I just thank God for everything. Y'all, my grandkids, like I have a life that looks like I didn't go through nothing. But when I tell you, you don't know my story, that's exactly what I mean, okay? But God restores, and it doesn't look like you've been through it. You don't look like what you've been through. You don't look like the anger. You don't look like the pain. You don't look like the depression. You don't look like the rejection. You don't look like anything that you have gone through. The abuse, none of it. None of it looks like you, because now you are carrying the glory of God on your life every single place that you go. Be encouraged, right? This too shall pass. And if you are dealing with any extreme pain from your past or trauma or rejection or anything that you feel like I've been through so much, why me? And you're angry and you're frustrated and you just don't want this pain to keep coming back. Or if you are a person who you've gotten through your life, you've accomplished some things, you got some stuff done, and your life is good right now. But every now and then, that thing keeps coming up and stabbing you a little bit more. Every now and then you feel the sting of the stuff that you went through. You get triggered and you get hurt and you fall back into that place, right? The presence of God will break it off of your life forever, forever. And it won't sting as bad. It won't hurt as bad. And you'll be able to deal with those situations from a higher place, from up here, because that's where God wants us to be. He wants us to go higher in Him. And this is why, because the higher you go, the more all those things that held you down fall off. All right. So listen, I know this is a long video today, but I just had to share this with you. I just felt led to talk to the women that have experienced this in life and will experience this, right? The answer to the trauma and the pain and all the stuff is in the presence of God, okay? All right? Get there. and he will heal you. He will not fail you. I promise you that he won't. And your life will be a shining example for all to see that God is real. And all the people that talked about you and looked down on you and thought you wasn't this and thought you wasn't that, they will see you be blessed. God's word says that he will prepare a table for you in front of your enemies. Well, God can't lie. He can't lie. So get in his presence and let him do just that. Let him prepare the table. Okay? Amen. Be blessed on today. I love you on today. God loves you so much more. So much more. Until next time, I'll see you soon.